Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I facilitate the Clarity Catalyst. I'm the founder of Morning Magic Membership. I also lead retreats here in Australia and internationally. I love all things self-mastery, mindset, and personal development. Here on this podcast, I bring you some pretty exceptional women. We talk all things creativity, business, love, life, and moving forward with self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a solo podcast with lots of life according to Emma moments where I share some tools and also some, hopefully, inspiration for you to take the next step. Thanks for being here. Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. Today's topic is one that is weaved with a story and a journey about how life coaches and mentors have made a huge impact on my life. Often I get the question, what even is a life coach? What even is a transformational coach? And let's be honest, it is a little bit of a cringy title and sometimes denotes this feeling that like, what even is that? Is there any qualifications and how can that even be helpful? What even is a life coach? So I'm going to explain to you or tell you a little story or describe my journey as having life coaches in my life for over a decade now. So starting way back 10 years ago, I met a woman by the name of Sue. And Sue was a life coach, a counselor, and an equine therapist. And I come across Sue and I thought, oh my gosh, how exciting having a session with a life coach. And Sue was one of these really amazing women who just asked the most powerful questions. But what I realized was Sue really stepped into a counselor role. So I would describe my first experience or my first 12 months with Sue. I worked with Sue for 18 months, but the first 12 months that I worked with Sue, we were really in a role where I was the client and she was the counselor. It wasn't until I'd had 12 months with her really delving back into my past and healing. I, like many of us, had some minor traumas, but the biggest thing for me was grief. I had a boyfriend that my first love, a boyfriend that I dated for almost 2 years who took his own life, and that was a massive shock. And interesting enough, it's funny how you just carry on, but it's not until someone actually takes time and holds space for you that you start to unravel and the grief rises. I'd also had another dear friend who had also taken her own life a few years later. So it was interesting that I had some unprocessed grief. And although I thought I was seeing Sue as a life coach, the first 12 months definitely was counseling. Also, she did equine therapy with horses. So my husband and I actually did a session with her and her horses, which was really, really interesting and powerful. And then after that 12 months, the next 6 months, we really did step into more of that life coaching role. I was feeling quite stuck in the work that I was doing, wasn't quite sure what to do. And through my work with Sue, I made leaps and bounds, and I mean from a personal development perspective, a self-awareness perspective. Also, I started to ignite that passion and purpose that I have. Also owning the part of myself that really love to connect with people and talk to people about really interesting things instead of, gossiping and backbiting and that kind of humdrum. It really helped me deepen connections. So my time with Sue, I pay a lot of respect and kudos to Sue. And really in so many ways, Sue really changed the direction of my life. So she really was the counselor for me and then the life coach, which I absolutely loved that 6 months that we spent really in that coach student. So from that, I got quite excited and thought, you know what? I think I want to be a life coach. So I'd already been working with long-term unemployed people and probably in a lot of ways naturally doing a lot of coaching. I was also a hairdresser years before that. And I always say, hairdressing was really where I learnt to be a great life coach, because as a hairdresser, you hear everything, you hold a lot of space, but there is an element of kind of, I guess, gossipy and kind of surface conversation. So I thought when I with this work with Sue, I'm going to be a life coach. So my next little paying kudos is to two dear friends that are still friends to this day that we studied life coaching together. So this was in 2013. So how the life coaching work, you had, a self-study component, but then we got put into a group, a triad. So in that triad, we did 120 hours, and it was broken up. 40 hours you were the coach, you coached. 40 hours you were the client, and then the other 40 hours you were the fly on the wall. So my dear friend Di and John, we gathered, because back then Zoom wasn't really popular, so we actually gathered on Skype, the good old days when it was Skype. We gathered on Skype and every Sunday morning and did 3 hours. That took us quite some time to get through. It was almost, by the time we kind of, it was probably almost close to 10 months that we did Sunday morning. Because of course, sometimes there was a Sunday we couldn't do, but mostly every Sunday we really committed. And that was such a joyful experience. And I almost describe that time, and liking it to my hairdressing days. When you have a first year apprentice, cut your hair, they're really diligent and they're really nervous, and sometimes you can get a better haircut from an apprentice than you can a senior because they're so wanting to do a good job. It was like that also with our coaching, because we were learning this new skill, and there was processes and different tools that we could use as coaches. So it was so awesome to be coached, to coach, and to observe, like be the fly on the wall, be the witness. So there are my next two beautiful life coaches that I say thank you so much for that growth. And it was a great time of personal development and learning things about myself. And then after that, I became a life coach, got the qualification, but then went, what do I really do with it? Who am I going to coach? What am I going to do? And then as it turns out, I happened to be listening to Hay House Radio, and Jennifer Grace came on, and she had written a book. She's a Hay House author, and she'd written a book called Directing Your Destiny. And I found it quite interesting. I read the book, and then she was on Hay House Radio, and she said, I'm going to take a group of women to India for some transformational coaching, some yoga, some photography. And that little voice in my head said, I'm going. And that's the intuition. Intuition speaks to you, but it always gives you an action step. So the action step was, you're going to India. So, of course, I chatted to my husband. 6 weeks later, I ended up in India with Jennifer Grace. So she is my next coach. I'm going to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I met with her, and through the whole coaching process, I had a one-on-one coaching session with her in India, and she basically said, so what are you going to do with this coaching? What are you doing with your life? And she suggested, what about the Clarity Catalyst? Why don't you come and become a facilitator of the Clarity Catalyst? So hence, that's what I did. So that was many years ago. I learnt the beautiful art. So I came back to Australia, and I spent the next 18 weeks getting up at crazy o'clock in the morning, because we were, countries apart. And I learnt this beautiful facilitation of the Clarity Catalyst. Then after that, I embarked on another coach, because this is the thing. The coach always has a coach. And that's one thing. If you are looking at a coach and they don't have a coach, that to me is a red flag. A coach always needs a coach. And also, when you're a coach, you believe in coaching and you know the power of coaching. So then the next beautiful coach that my husband and I actually got together, which was actually a group coaching called the Fortune Institute. And it was almost like, well, not almost, it was a more of a business coaching setting. And what I realized during that time, we would have group coaching session, learns all these fabulous things about business, but then we would have one-on-one coaching with one of the coaches, Paul and Matt. And I realized, I love that saying, you have to work harder on yourself than you do your business, because you are your business. And I think that goes for everything. You have to work harder on yourself than you do your relationship, because you are your relationship. You have to work harder on yourself than anything, because you take yourself everywhere, right? So that was our next coaching experience, and we were with the Fortune Institute for around 2 years, and that was very joyful. Our business grew, but we learned a lot about ourselves during that time as well. Another great time for that business breakthrough and learning about ourselves and how we deal with stress and pressure, and also keeping the focus forward. Like, what next? Where are we heading? 90-day plans. So that was another great experience. Then after that, I decided that I would do a different coaching program to my husband, and I would embark on the beautiful Her Empire Builder with Tina Tower. So that is the current coach that I have now, Tina Tower, and the current coaching paradigm I'm in, which is group coaching, with the most phenomenal women. And a lot of other coaches are in this program as well. So it's business and it's personal. And, if I could even sum up, the experience that I am having in Her Empire Builder and the experience I've had thus far working with coaches, the list goes on, but it really is mindset, opening my mind up to possibilities. Again, the personal development, tapping into purpose and passion, or, some people call it your why, tapping into your why. I think the creativity and the connection. I also love, we've all heard that saying, who are the 5 people you're surrounding yourself with? And that determines, sometimes, well, not sometimes, they do say, determines the whole direction of your life. And I've got to say, getting amongst coaching programs and meeting like-minded people, the depth of conversation and those 5 people that you're sitting at the table with is pretty phenomenal. You get with your people. And I run the Clarity Catalyst, which is also a group coaching program. And I've got to say, the women that come to the Clarity Catalyst all have some really great things in common. And that is, they want to raise their self-awareness. They want to really step forward with curiosity and really start to look at their limiting beliefs and really want to just hang out with people who are high vibe. And like I, said before, there's not this backbiting and this backstabbing and talking about the weather. It's actually talking about the real things and going, how do we want to make a difference in the world? No matter what you do. So Her Empire Builder is currently where I'm at now with Tina Tower, but I've also had another person in my life since December that has really stepped in as that real personal coach. And Belzy is her name, and she probably wouldn't describe herself, oh, am I really a coach? But she has studied coaching. She's helped me in my online business, and she is phenomenal about processes. But ultimately, Belzy is the person that I reach out to when I get the wobbles. Like all of us, you want to go for it. You want to have a big life. You want to dream big. You want to do all the things. But then that goddamn itty bitty shitty committee rocks up and says those things to yourself, and we get the wobbles. And I think that's what I love about, coaching, transformation coaching, life coaching. If it's not a healing journey you need, maybe it's a transformation journey. Transformation comes when really powerful questions are asked and you really challenge that belief system. Also, I love that coaches, and particularly my Clarity Catalyst, and a lot of coaches do, they share a lot of tools that you can draw on. So that's what I love about coaching. So if anyone was to ask you, what is a life coach, or have you seen a life coach? Think about what I've shared today. That's my journey as a coach on both sides of the spectrum. I am a coach, but I also have coaching and have a coach right now. And I believe through the power of coaching, we can really deepen who we are. We can really go after our goals and really, I don't know, well, I do know, really tap into that party that you know what you're here for. Someone can ask you some great questions and you can really push forward and create a life that you absolutely love and adore. So that is my journey of coaching and an explanation. What even is a life coach? There you have it, my friends. Reach out with any questions. I would love to share with you exactly what I do as a coach and the Clarity Catalyst and how that plays out in one's life and what the structure is. Clarity Catalyst opens in January. So for the new year, if that excites you, reach out and I would love to share with you. Have a great day. An invitation to you, my friend. I have a free Facebook group called 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. I go live every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Queensland time. This beautiful community was created as I love a morning practice and I know how beneficial it is for lowering stress levels, in setting intention for the day, and also taking some time to reflect. So if you would love to join me, this is my heartfelt invitation to you. Come over to the free Facebook group. Link is in the show notes and I'll see you on the mat.